All right, YouTube, we're back. I'm standing in front of the other box today, and I kind of wanted to get into a little different philosophy as far as tool usage goes. And that's mostly just trying to reduce waste and inefficiency in your actual usage, in your process. That takes a lot of forms. Everybody's got a different system for how they like to go about things. For me, as somebody who has primarily been a small engine mechanic, most of the work that I end up doing winds up being somewhere on a bench. And so for me, I like to have tools more or less around. I try and keep some of the things that I use the absolute most out and available. Especially things like these forceps they are my fingers. They are my hands 90% of the time when I'm working on small engines. I've got big old hands and I need a way to be able to get onto real tiny bolts and move little tiny things inside. And I'm not doing that with my fat fingers. So that's where things like this or long reach needle nose or other workarounds kind of come in. I use those all the time. Same with my most used power tools between the DCF 601, the 12-volt screwdriver. I love this thing more than any other of all of my power tools. This gets used easily the most because for me, on small engines, this thing doesn't impact. It's basically a drill motor with a quick change chuck on it and no gear reduction on there. I love that it has the slip for the chuck on there. And what's kind of cool about it is I've checked it against a torque wrench, and each one of these settings, at least on my tool, is pretty dead nuts. 1 foot-pound per number, so I would theoretically have it at 11 foot-pounds, give or take, just as a fast and dirty way about going about things. And the way that I tend to use this the most is I leave it on 15. That gets me just enough to get it as snugged up as I can with it. And if I have to remove something, I can switch it over to the max, which is kind of like the drill mode where it doesn't slip at all. And I can still always get things undone. But this ends up being about the perfect setting for doing assembly, disassembly, especially with plastic components and cheaper fasteners and things like that. This just makes it so much easier because you're not cracking plastic, you're not stripping half as much stuff. Going with a screwdriver instead of impact on small engines, in my opinion, is absolutely the way to go. And that's why these are hanging right here on the outside of this box. Because when I'm working, pretty much anywhere I stand with my arms, I can be in the middle of this bench here, reach just fine, do whatever I've got to do, throw it right back up, there I go. Same with having these wrenches here. Now I tried having them spread out across the wall on hooks. I'm not the biggest fan of the way that ended up working, so that's why I ended up going with these grippers. It ends up being significantly easier. And more importantly, it saves a lot of this pegboard space that I now get to figure out what else I want to move to the pegboard, what else I want within arm's reach while I'm working on things. But that's where my whole philosophy of a benchtop toolbox kind of came in. Now, started out because where I was working, I had a really nice bench and no box. Everything that I had for a while was actually between this tool roll and that DeWalt box. Ended up picking this up for like, I don't know, 75, 80 bucks. It was some kind of a deal, coupon, something or other. I went with the Husky because there was a Home Depot within 100 miles, which is pretty close for me. And I started out with it. So that's like how I've got tuning screwdrivers, picks, scraping. This is actually, I don't even remember, I'm sure it came off of Amazon or something. It's a weird little cast tool, but it's for removing outboard clutches on any of the three-pawl style outboard clutches. It's pretty handy, more so on Husqvarna's, but the well, yeah, pretty much all the other outboards still have an actual hex on it, but yeah, it works out on a few of the odd ones that you get. Screwdrivers. This is part of the first set of tools that I bought were these Husky screwdrivers. I got a lot of stuff at that Home Depot that first time when I was gearing up for working at that shop. And I still like them, and they're still perfectly good. They're actually real nice and light. I'm not the biggest fan of the Torque style, just regular screwdrivers. They don't get used all that much. And, oh yeah, and you always got to have a beater chisel, something just to wail on. Sometimes they work as a scraper. It just depends. But it's the same thing. I've got just my most used small engine. I've got my small set of snap rings. I've got a small set of flush cuts. Real itty bitty one of those Pittsburgh needle nose. This is like the coolest thing I found on Amazon, and it's like for doing little tiny like chainsaw weed eater fuel lines. It's like a 1/4 inch hose pliers, and they actually came straight. I just chucked them in the vise, heated them up, and bent them. But as small as they are perfect for being able to get in there on the side of a carburetor. I think I got one lying around. There we go. So like all those little tiny fuel lines that go, and impulse lines that go into different carburetors. This one's off of like a, I want to say it 025, something around in there. We'll see. Could be totally wrong. Anyway, it's great for getting in there and getting those darn lines off of there, and having something small enough to be able to work with it for. Same with first set of wire stripper crimpers. I actually really love these GB, or yeah. Got them at Home Depot. They work great. I like the Icon ones better. That's why they're in my box, at least for actually working, doing wiring on a piece of equipment. But I can't fault these. They stay here in case I'm doing something else that's being done on the bench where I'm not inside of a piece of equipment. A few other things: diagnostic equipment, multimeter, test leads, pressure vac tester. I need to get around to actually making more organization for this at this point, but these are flangets, fittings, blocks, things like that. Different other test leads for stuff. I guess I got a splitter for my air compressor there, a few other things. This is just a little bit extra junk in here. I will say, second most used tool in my entire shop is blowgun, especially small engines, chainsaws. Absolutely none of you know how to actually clean your equipment, and I'm convinced a lot of you take pride in how filthy you can get your equipment, and that's fine. I'll make more money off of it. But it seems like everything that comes across my bench is absolutely filthy, and I have to just excavate my way through a mountain of sawdust and bar oil. But again, digressing, I try and keep what I need within arm's reach. That's why I've got tuning screwdrivers in the top drawer. It's tack right there. It's where I'm going to try and get these things. Similarly, when I think about my main box, I'm looking into my utilization. What's 90% of the time, what I'm grabbing first is a socket. What kind? I don't know. I do a lot of things by hand on small engines. That's why I have chromes. They fit into other places better. And I'm sure nobody else has ever done this, but sometimes they will survive being on an impact to be able to get in where you need because they've got that thinner wall. But next step down, more sockets, ratchets, torque wrenches, crow's feet, 4-ways, pliers. It's a descending order of what you're grabbing. Some people probably think it's weird that I've got pullers in my main toolbox. Well, when you're dealing with a lot of things that are PTOs or flywheels or what have you, you end up using a lot of pullers. Same with hammers for beating stuff off. Pins, roll pins everywhere. God, they are just everywhere. Sometimes you got to be able to just kind of pry gently on things. But as you see, I'm slowly descending. Part of the reason of that, I'm 6'6". I'm a big guy. Every time I have to reach for something, I can reach pretty far, so that works out well on a bench. But going all the way down to the bottom drawer to grab something is a bend. It's a movement. It's extra time. It's extra strain. It's less efficient. So having your most used tools in a descending order, for me, works out far more efficiently. Same thing goes with how you tend to organize your systems. I have 2 boxes. Right now I've got this box, I've got this box. Technically I've got a toolbox in my truck too. We subdivide having things where they're most useful. In a shop environment, this rolls with me to what I'm working on if it's not a benchtop item. For all of my benchtop items, I have my benchtop tools. It's just sort of that thought process of keeping things available. Oh, these probably get used more than just about anything else. T20, T27 for steel, for Husqvarna, for small engines in general. That's like 90% of the Torx fasteners that you're going to run into, and you run into them a lot. The set that I got came with the other ones. So how did I differentiate? Well, I just painted these ones orange. That way I knew at a glance, I wasn't trying to sort through and check. I knew that if I was looking for a Torx, one of the orange ones is probably what I'm looking for first. It's pretty easy to tell the difference between a 20 and a 27, not quite the same between a 25, a 27, and a 30. So that helps me be able to quickly identify, grab, add it to my gun, and get to work. It's just considering how you work, what you work on, what you're working with. It's creating the best reality-based use scenario. That's getting back into 5S and lean manufacturing. That's kind of the main principle, reducing that waste and inefficiency by having a place for everything, making sure that everything stays in its place, that things are readily accessible with the least amount of movement, with the least amount of strain, and just being able to quickly and efficiently operate your box. You would, pretty much anybody, you want to get to that point where if you were standing in front of your box and blindfolded, you've got a better than not chance of being able to grab what you need, or at least being in that ballpark. It's like you already know where your hand already knows where it's going before your brain does. When you start going in for the right socket, for the right ratchet, for the right set of pliers, you know, your muscle memory develops and you're able to quickly acquire the tool, implement it in the situation, complete the job, and get on to the next one. All of that was saying a lot to say a little, so appreciate you if you stuck around this far. If you like to see, like, subscribe, do what you got to do. I'll see you all in the next one.